Of the 136 movies released this year that I've reviewed, 79 fall under various forms of the horror genre or subgenres. And there have been good to great ones. There have been ones that were okay. And the ones I'm going to talk about today, the really, really bad ones, the ones that made me question, do I really like horror? Did the directors, writers, the actors, anybody involved in these movies like horror? Did they just say, we're getting some money, let's just fucking do it? This isn't even coming close to tapping in to the various forms of trash that fall under the horror genre that I saw this year. But anyway, I'm John Redmond with my 10 worst horror movies of 2023 list so far with some honorable mentions. Let me know your least favorite horror movies in the comments, please. And I'm just going to start off with the honorable mentions. Disquiet. Guy's trapped in a hospital after a stupid accident and is haunted by ghosts. And then there's a good guy or a bad guy. Maybe it's a good idea, bad idea, good idea. Making something other than disquiet. Bad idea, making disquiet. It was like a really bad Twilight Zone episode, or just something where it's like, we know what the reveal is, we know what the whole point of this is, can you get on with it already? Oh, you're only 10 minutes into the movie? Maybe you shouldn't have fucking done this if it was already so goddamn bad 10 minutes in. Nevertheless, really, really bad. Really bad. Still not as bad as it would have, as, you can see, because it's still in the honorable mentions. Also, Clock. Clock is about, well, a clock. A clock that haunts some lady. And it's from the horrors of war their family suffered. And I believe it's on Hulu. And I would have rather watched the clock tick for 90 minutes because that would have been a whole lot better. Also, it's about biological clock and a lady wanting to finally have kids and go through an experimental therapy. And you imagine how well that goes. Experimental therapies always go well in horror movies. But, yeah, Clock is really bad. The Ghost Within. I really don't know what the point of this was. I struggled to remember much about it until I actually took a look at images and was like, oh, yeah, this was the one about a ghostly girl and somebody making really bad decisions that come back to haunt them, and it was just stupid. It was really stupid. Like, why in the world was The Ghost Within made? Genuine question. Also, another movie that involves a clock for some goddamn reason. So, we'll just go with another one. Marry, Fuck, Kill. Or, well, actually, F star, star, star. It was a Tubi original that I'm not sure what the point of it was. I'm not sure why they were deciding to make it just so goddamn shitty. Yeah, that was it. I mean, people go to a house and a friend of theirs leaves them, and they don't immediately question why this is happening or why the mother of this particular person is so accepting of them showing up and doesn't want them to leave. And that's a little bit weird, but yeah, it's a bad Tubi original. And then we go to You're Killing Me, featuring the worst protagonist and some of the worst villains that I've seen in modern horror movie history. Everybody's annoying and stupid, and it's in, like, generally one location for 80% of the movie. And everybody's really dumb. Everybody's really bad acting, which is a shame because I think that the actors actually are good and they just weren't allowed to be good, because You're Killing Me had one of the dumbest plots that I've seen in a while. It could have worked if they went just full comedy. They didn't go full comedy. They tried to make it scary. And then when they actually tried to make it funny, none of it landed. So yeah, this is pretty much a misfire. Megan. Yeah, I'm going to get some hate for this, but I hated Megan. It wasn't scary. It wasn't funny. I do not understand. I don't get why this made so much money, and then I realized the viral marketing campaign. There are people that like it, and that's fine. If you guys like it, great. If you guys think that Megan is going to launch a franchise, great. I actually did rewatch this recently. I watched the unrated edition. You know what was different? Fuck all. And it was really bad. Megan was not a good way to start off the year. Made a lot of money, though, so what the fuck do I know? Then we get to Scream 6. Yeah, Scream 6 almost made it into the top 10. May actually make it into the top 10 by the end of the year, because this list could change around. Scream 6 featured Samara Weaving, Jenna Ortega, various others and everything, and also a bunch of bonker shit, even by slasher movie standards. There were people that survived numerous incidents and stabs and, incidents with the killer, that made me think there's no way they survived that. I even questioned why Mindy and Chad, or how Mindy and Chad, survived their injuries in the 5th movie. There's no explanation for that. We're off to New York / Montreal or Toronto. I forget which city it was. I don't really fucking care, because I knew Samara Weaving was going to be in. That's why I'm wearing this shirt and everything, because Samara Weaving is, in addition to being pretty good in horror movies, also insanely attractive. And I was excited to see her in it. And then I thought, oh, well, they're going to maybe try to go Scream 2 with this. The difference is Scream 2 fell apart in the 3rd act, but was still pretty good. This pretty much fell apart instantly. And upon rewatching Scream 5, I was way too kind to it. I should have knocked Scream 5 down to about a B at the highest. This really wasn't good. And then we get to The Pale Blue Eye. Christian Bale and others in a Netflix original that came out early in the year, and I struggled to remember much about it, except it was absolutely shit. So yeah, now we're just going to get into the top 10 now. So we go to Kill Her Goats. This is ranked higher on my worst list. The reason that I'm ranking it this low is because while it's barely a movie and barely a concept, at least the horror elements, they tried to have some gore in it, so I can't necessarily fault them for that. And also the movie was attempting to be a throwback to stupid slashers. It wasn't very good. In fact, I would argue it was absolute dog shit. And it was, or goat shit as it were. But there were more offensive ones as far as horror movies on this list. As a movie, I stand by everything I goddamn said, putting it as high as I did. In fact, it may end up being top 5 by the end of the year. But I basically make this list based on how offensive it was to the horror genre, and there were more offensive movies in this. Like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It featured a bunch of pretty girls, including one with the first name of Amber, who I think has a bright future. And seriously, she has a good look and could be in a lot of horror movies, hopefully better than this. Yeah, the Winnie the Pooh characters in a slasher movie setting, and it could have worked. It was too dark. It was too grim. It didn't have nearly as much fun with its concept as it could have, and they hinted at a sequel. And also the fact that this movie was made for about $100 to $150 grand and made $5 million during its limited release at the box office. It's almost guaranteed to make a sequel. In fact, I think they're working on one right now, and hopefully they can make it better than this. They can't bring any of the cast back. I mean, they could try, but it wouldn't be very good. Hopefully, they put more effort into it next time. Then we get to number 8, Unwelcome. Oh boy, people go to an Irish villa, cabin, something that must appease a presence that lives in the garden area. And while it could have been good, it ended up being absolutely annoying and dog shit, and I hate everybody and want everybody to die, and how dare you not utilize this concept. By the time it gets to anything that could have been halfway good, you don't care. You don't care one bit. This, I believe, is on Shudder. I think it's a Shudder original. All I know is Unwelcome was really, really bad. Really, really bad. And featured terrible acting. I mean, I'm not even saying the people are terrible actors. It's just it featured terrible acting. Number 7, Fear. A guy wants to study the various fears of his friends under the guise of a vacation. And it turns out as well as you might guess. Fear was terrible. Perhaps the plan was to release this early in the year so people would forget about it. I didn't, because this movie scarred me. This was really, really... This felt like it should have been out in the late 90s to early 2000s. And even then would have felt dated. Number 6, Consecration. Jenna Malone again. Jenna Malone deserves better. I talked about Jenna Malone on my best list. But yeah, Consecration. Consecration was something that should have been a slam dunk. Deal going on at the church. Demonic possession. All that. And they somehow made it slow and boring, and by the time we got to any possession stuff, and the obvious conclusion and twist in the 3rd act that was clearly obvious within the first 10 minutes, you didn't care. You didn't care one bit. It wasted it wasted everybody that was involved in it. It wasted anybody with any talent involved in this. Consecration was more of a desecration. There's something wrong with the children. Certainly is. Like, these children should have never seen the light of day, as far as characters, I mean. Not the actual children, but this movie should have never seen the light of day. This actually reminded me why I utterly loathe children and will never have children ever in my life. Children end up going a little bit haywire when they see something in a cave. And it plays out like if a bad Twilight Zone episode mated with like every bad idea from a sci-fi horror, AI program. It was just really shit. So there's something wrong with the children. There's a lot of things wrong with the children. Sleeping Beauties was another Tubi original that made me, honest to God, question why the fuck movies get made anymore, because this was not good. Couldn't understand what anybody was saying because of the numerous weird accents. Acting was all over the place, from apocalyptically bad to, my God, do another take, you fucking idiot. How dare you even think that's acceptable? To, what the fuck was this? What the fuck was this? What were these special effects? Who thought this was a good idea? Sleeping Beauties is terrible. Yeah, I watched it. I watched it all the way through and regretted it. Number 3, Bunker. It's a indie horror about World War II, soldiers getting to a German bunker, going across a war field, not getting dirty, not getting shot, not getting nothing, because they couldn't afford decent sets, or any sets, besides like just being in underground caves, as opposed to overground caves. They get in, find evil presence, and then weird shit starts happening, and people start to get madness and cabin fever. I would rather watch the bad Cabin Fever sequel, or even the unnecessary reboot of Cabin Fever in 2016, than watch Bunker. Ugly, depressing, and really bad. Though, not as bad as The Price We Pay. The Price We Pay had Stephen Dorff and Emile Hirsch. It's one of the most recent movies that I reviewed that's on this list. It's on the cock currently. You could watch it if you want to hate yourself and hate every character in this, and hate everybody that was in front of the camera, behind the camera, and hate everybody involved in this goddamn movie, because nobody held up their hand and said, this is really bad. Should we maybe make it better, or maybe make it not as shit? No, let's just continue to make it really goddamn dog shit. And that's what they did. The Price We Pay had, I guess, a few decent violent scenes, but none of it had any context, none of it felt good, none of it felt organic. Despite organs, being involved in this thing, The Price We Pay almost made it to number 1. But number 1, Children of the Corn. Children of the goddamn Corn. I will explain why Children of the Corn is my worst horror movie of the year, because upon further reflection, I should have ranked this a lot higher on my worst movies list. You can check out that list if you want. Children of the Corn, painfully unnecessary addition to this long-running, long-dead franchise where they do gender swap stuff, and it's a girl leading the charge, and they try to have all this stuff about crops are being killed by the government and towns are being wiped off the map, their economy is being destroyed, and there would be good ideas here if the acting was anything above people that were basically in a soma coma. Honestly, Elena Mafalopoulos, however the hell you say her goddamn name, who is in Wife-like and seems like she might actually have a screen presence, is totally wasted here. I think everybody that wrote and directed and had anything to do with being part of the crew on this were totally wasted, because there's no excuse for why a movie is this ugly, this terrible, and this trash, and features some of the worst special effects in a current release. And I know this thing went through development hell because of the pandemic and because they were trying to find the proper distribution, but really they could have just shoved this thing out on goddamn Tubi and it probably would have been a whole lot better, because they weren't going to make any money with this. They barely made any money with this with a short window in theaters. And that's why Children of the Corn is my least favorite horror movie, my worst horror movie of 2023 so far. Let me know yours in the comments, please. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm Charm Riplin. I'll see you soon.